among the 5 factors called Padanyanga, the factors of a yogi who is striving to reach the goal. The first 3 are occurring to a satisfactory extent. And these first 3 are important for all yogis. However, during the practice, this 4th factor is essential for knowledge to arise in stages, starting from the discernment of nama and rupa. Araddha Viriya is very important. So one puts the mind on one's body, and within the large fields of observation, one observes the newly arising object, pushing one's mind to reach the object every second of the time. One can't omit this effort. And just as one needs effort, sometimes our desire, chanda, is excessive. It's too strong. And in that case, our effort will overshoot the object. And when our desire or chanda is weak, then our effort will fall short. So to make our effort just right, we need aiming, which is a jhanic factor. Similar to when we throw darts at a target, if the strength we apply is too weak, then our dart won't reach the target. So we have to apply physical strength to reach the target. We have to propel the dart. But without aim, then if our desire to get our dart to the target, if our desire is too strong, then we will overshoot the target. So for meditation, the meditation teacher has to tell the yogis how to adjust, what needs to be adjusted as far as their aiming and their effort. And the teacher also needs to explain the benefits of making effort and the pitfalls of not applying effort. Without aim, too, one will just fantasize. So the teacher must also explain the benefits of aiming and the problems that occur if aiming is not present. Sayadaw has been talking about this time and again, and the yogis have heard about it, and they are familiar with these terms. Some yogis, just hearing this one time, they start to apply the concepts of aiming and effort. If one hears this repeatedly, but doesn't apply aiming and effort as instructed, then it's not effective to repeat this again and again and again. So it depends on the yogis. It depends on the yogis to make yourself easy to teach, to take up the instructions that are being given and use them. So 1 month is now over, and some yogis have been here since the start, some haven't. But among the yogis, some yogis practice lightly, even though it's been quite some time. So when one has a chronic illness, there's no hope for cure. And the same with practice. If one's practice is chronic, is not developing, then there's no help. So today Sayadaw is issuing a special warning about this. At the start, the effort that we make needs to be ardent and vigilant, active. not slow, sluggish, or cool. Sayadaw has spoken about this. He doesn't tell the yogis to do what is not possible. It is possible to have this type of effort. And this was taught by the Buddha 2,500 years ago in India. The Buddha, the most exceptional person ever to arise in the world. If one applies the correct practice, then the results will also be correct. The results are consistent with the practice. So one must also understand the qualities of the Dhamma. And this is something, too, that Sayadaw has spoken about. If one applies effort every second of the time to observe the arising object, Viriya, courageous effort, gains momentum. And this is Araddha Viriya, developed effort. This effort has the courage not to let unwholesome dhammas, akusala, arise, come into the mind. And it has the courage to develop and bring to completion wholesome kusala dhammas. This viriya, or courageous effort, increases moment by moment for one who practices. If one is slack, then defilements enter the mind. But with viriya, these defilements are they have no chance to arise. Viriya eliminates the chance for them to arise. Viriya does not get rid of them after they arise. It doesn't give them any opportunity. When kilesas do not arise in the mind, then sati sticks with the object, and sati becomes strong. It becomes good quality. This is praiseworthy. So when one makes a lot of effort, there will also be a lot of sati, and this is called satima. Viriya does not accept the kilesas. It rejects them. Sati protects, defends, and makes the mind secure. It said, Rekha Varana Goti. Sati guards the mind. Therefore, the door is closed to kilesas. So to the extent we apply effort, the mind becomes secured by sati. And then there won't be any movement due to raga, lust. There won't be any movement due to anger, dosa. So at this point, kanika samadhi, momentary samadhi, can arise. The mind falls collectedly on the object. With viriya, sati, and samadhi arising second after second, the obsessive defilements, the pariyotana kilesas, are being dispelled. Without viriya, sati, and samadhi, the mind will run here and there, just like a monkey jumping from branch to branch. But with the development of viriya, sati, and samadhi, the mind becomes quiet. This is valuable. If one can observe steadfastly, then the quality of sati, that it protects, defends, and makes the mind secure, is very clear. The mind becomes still. And this is called santa, peace. This santa is the cause for gaining happiness. So the yogis need to understand how valuable this is. At the same time, there is aiming or focusing to make the mind meet the object exactly. This is the quality called vitakka. And in older translations, it's translated as thought. But this is not practical. In practice, it means aiming and focusing on the object. And this is the quality of jhana is there, focused concentration. Aiming must be present. Why is this? When there is sloth and torpor, tina and mita, the mind will become cold, shrunken, and it won't move at all. Aiming makes the mind blossom. Every second we apply aiming, the mind becomes open. It blossoms. It becomes bright. The way a flower opens very subtly, this is the way the mind blossoms with the application of vitakka or aiming. So one puts one's mind on the abdomen to observe the rising, the falling, and all other objects. And this quality of aiming makes the mind accurate. To the extent that aiming is present, the mind will be fresh. So this is the opposite of tina and mita, sloth and torpor. Sayadaw said previously, and he's repeating now, that Viriya is the quality that can gain the upper hand over laziness. And vitakka, aiming, is the opposite of tina and mita, sloth and torpor. So with these two, the mind is very fresh. And when the mind meets the object accurately, then it becomes concurrent, as though it's rubbing against the object from the start to the finish. So the mind becomes definite about the object. There's no more doubt or wavering about what it is. So this is the quality of vichara. The quality of vitakka is the opposite of tina mita, sloth and torpor. Vichara, which follows, is the opposite of skeptical doubt, vicikkecha. So these are jhanic powers, and they are valuable. So if when one practices, one just recites the names of the objects, if one doesn't actually apply aim in order to observe the object, but is just working by rote, by memory, so to speak, or just like reciting a list, then without aim, the mind will fall into sloth and torpor, and the yogi will start to nod and fall asleep. While one is nodding, one is losing every second of the time. And so if one spends 5 minutes nodding, that is 5 minutes of lost time, and 10 minutes of nodding will be 10 minutes of loss. So one needs to apply effort to overcome laziness, and one needs to apply aiming because it is the opposite of sloth and torpor. With these two factors, one overcomes. With effort and aiming, one overcomes these two factors of laziness and tina mita. So how valuable this is. Sayadaw said, just try to have value in the moment. Don't think anything about the end of the retreat. Just try in the moment to have these valuable things. If one's effort is slack, and if one's aiming is not present, then tina and mita will come in, and one will lose whatever viriya, sati, and samadhi one has gained. these qualities will just dry up. But on the other hand, if one applies effort and aiming, then Viriya, Sati, and Samadhi are present. So this is the profit that is gained by applying effort to observe the object and aiming. So it's just a matter of profit or loss. Yogis who practice respectfully, meticulously, without taking a break, are profiting. And yogis who practice lightly are losing. So if one keeps on losing, if one keeps on practicing lightly, then in time one will become chronic. With every arising object, to the extent that one applies ardent effort, then sati will become established on the object. If there is aiming so that the mind meets up accurately with the object, where will the mind run? It will just stay with the object. The mind will fall collectedly on the object every time. So if every time the object arises, we apply effort and aiming, and sati is present, then khanika samadhi, momentary concentration, will arise automatically. And when this happens, if this is the case, then we should just think about how this will be. With the mind staying with the object, there's no wanting to see good things, hear good things, smell, taste, touch, think good things. There's no kama vitaka, thinking about sense objects. And there's no wanting to destroy others, vyabhada vitaka. There's no desire to give anybody any trouble, vihimsa vitaka. And there's no entertaining of useless thoughts. So how valuable this is. To the extent that one applies effort in this way, there will be akusalanang dhammanang pahanaya, kusalanang dhammanang upasampadaya. There will be dispelling of unwholesome dhammas and development of wholesome ones. This is undeniable, and the Buddha encouraged us to practice in this way. Every one of us, when we do something that has an objective, that we have an objective for doing, then when we come to be able to do it a little bit, when we are able to do the work or the task to some extent, we start to feel happy and satisfied. And when we go further and we can overcome pain, then one feels very happy with the practice. How good this is. At that time, the parts of the samadhi khandha, the elements of the samadhi khandha are present. Viriya, first of all, and second of all, sati, which guards the mind and makes it secure. And then khanika samadhi, momentary concentration, the mind falling collectedly on the object. This also becomes good. In addition to this, with aiming, the mind becomes concurrent with the object. It stays with the object from beginning to end. And then, when one observes the movement of the rising or the falling, if the mind falls on stiffness, one knows stiffness. If the mind falls on tension, one knows tension. If the mind falls on vibration or movement or relaxation, the mind knows these: vibration, relaxation, movement. When these factors of Viriya, Sati, and Samadhi together with vichara, the mind being concurrent, when these factors are good, then one goes beyond seeing the shape of the abdomen, and one goes beyond seeing its position of being expanded or collapsed, and the mind falls collectedly on the true qualities that are there, such as stiffness, tension, movement, relaxation. This is knowledge. This is true knowledge, and thus it's called samjanya in Pali. This knowledge is not partial. This is complete. We know the object completely, not just part of it. And this too is the meaning of samjanya. This also is not knowledge that we gained by listening to our teachers or by reading a book. It's knowledge we gain directly through our practice. And this too is what is meant by samjanya. This knowledge is not mixed with form or manner to other ways of knowing. It's unmixed. So it is clear, distinct knowledge. So it's called paññña. And one sees in detail, not in a gross way, but in refined detail. So too it is called paññña. And this knowledge that we are gaining is not something, it's not like what we learn from others. It's not like what we learn from discussing. It's something more special than this. And so too it is called paññña. So this type of knowing arises. The nearest cause for knowledge to arise like this is the mind falling collectedly on the object of observation. And in this, aiming is also involved. At first we have to work to make our aim, to apply aim every time. But later, when we become skilled, this becomes sammasankappa, or right aiming, right application of the mind. And the knowledge that arises of stiffness, tension, movement, relaxation, whatever qualities the mind falls on, this is paññña. So in this way, the two factors of the paññña group of the path are present, paññña khanda. So other things one knows too: heat, cold, stickiness, moisture, solidity, mental qualities, mental activities such as thinking, planning. And one knows too that each object arises due to its own cause. When we continue to apply effort like this, our Viriya gains momentum, and it keeps on advancing. And it is said, paramata pattiya. So this means, paramata means what is really there. It's sometimes translated as ultimate reality. Parama means excellent. It can also mean ultimate. And atta means nature. So paramata. And this is not knowledge that we have found in books, although we might read about this. What we know at this time during the practice is not book learning, but it is direct knowledge. So it is called attapacchaka. This means what we know directly through our own knowledge. So we come to know the ultimate reality, paramata. And our aiming and effort applied to observe the arising object is done so that the mind can reach this paramattha. This is why we have to apply effort and aiming. So without letting laziness come in, we need to always apply effort and aiming. And if we do this, the mind will reach ultimate reality or paramattha. If in this way the effort is there for the mind to reach the paramattha, ultimate reality, then one's aim is on the true nature. One's mind falls on the true nature. And this accurate aim is called samma sankappa, or right application of the mind. And one knows the true nature as it is. So this is samaditi, or right view. And there's also right concentration, because the mind falls collectedly on the object. Right concentration is called samma samadhi. And with this concentration, the pariyotana kilesas, the obsessive kilesas, have no chance to arise. So the mind is clean, and with this clean mind, one is knowing the object every time as it is, and therefore the seeds of the kilesas that lie dormant are being destroyed. So at this time, there are the three factors of the samadhi group, Viriya, Sati, and Samadhi, and also the two factors of the Panya group, which are samma sankappa and samaditi, or right aim and right view, or basically wisdom. So this is called the five-limbed path. This is the path that has 5 parts. And one has to practice to develop this path of 5 parts. When one's knowing is effective, then just like when one chews a morsel of food, and every time one chews, then with every chew, one knows the flavor of the food one is chewing. So when one chews something sour, one knows the taste of the sour taste. One knows, chewing and chewing, one knows each time what the taste is of that particular morsel of food that is being chewed at the moment. And it is the same with the practice. If the yogis are careful about their observation, then every time they see the individual true nature of the object that is like the flavor that is found in food. So if one analyzes what is happening at that moment, the mental factors involved include the 3 members of the samadhi group of the path, Viriya, Sati, and Samadhi, and the 2 parts of the Panya group, which are samma sankappa and samaditi. When we start out, the mind has a lot of akusala, but when our akusala comes in a lot, but as we keep on going, our mind becomes firm and strong. Our wholesome factors become firm and strong. And when that happens, there's very little unwholesomeness that arises, if hardly any at all. And this is something that Sayadaw will continue to talk about tomorrow night, because today the time is up. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.